Hey puppers, welcome back to our anniversary special. Again, it's not the anniversary of Pupcorn, that's in August. It's actually our anniversary.
That is correct.
And our final segment here is actually going to be on the movies that we've watched over the past year. Yeah. So we would love to kind of share with you some of our favorites and some of our not so favorite movies. So if you're watching this and you haven't checked out our previous videos, check out our TV shows and our video game videos. They'll be down in the bottom part here and at the end of the video.
Yep.
So don't forget to watch them, like, and subscribe. But let's check out some of these movies. I do it all the time. It's fine. At least you didn't knock it over.
That's what I was afraid of. I was like,
a lot of, if you watch through a lot of my painting videos, the camera often falls over.
Okay.
Well, sometimes I edit it out. Sometimes I'm like, well, I mean, they have to see the process. So
it's the real, authentic,
yes,
behind the scenes experience.
Yes.
Only for our premium platinum Pupcorn subscribers.
For sure.
Kill me.
Anyway.
All right.
So we're gonna start out with
Secret of Nim.
Yes.
Which was what many people consider Don Bluth's magnum opus.
Yes.
And I discovered that it wasn't based at all on Redwall. It was another book by a completely different author.
Which is kind of what started my binge on Redwall.
Yeah.
Because I read the first Redwall book. You can check out the review. Mm-hmm. But I read it and I was having a really hard time trying to picture if they were really big mice or really small castles and things and little tiny cups that mice can hold in their little
The scale ratio
hands.
Is very confusing, as you mentioned.
So, and it's, again, that's not the point of the book or anything like that. It's not supposed to be in the forefront of your mind. But for me, I was just like, if the rat's riding a horse, is it a real big rat or is it a real little horse? Or is it just a normal-sized rat on a normal-sized horse? My brain went to really weird places and I was just like, how does that work? But anyway, you said something that might help me kind of imagine these creatures reading this book series was to watch The Secret of Nim.
Yep. And you never saw that movie
I never even heard of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had no...
I watched it on VHS growing up.
Yeah. Whereas we did not. So it was interesting to watch as an adult because you can kind of see and understand a lot of those darker themes that are in the movie. But you could also see how kids would still enjoy the movie and still be like, oh, no, and then be happy at the end. Mm-hmm. So it was a really interesting movie to watch.
Yeah, I really like that the main character is not some chosen hero or destined for greatness.
She's just a sad mom trying to save her kids.
A mom trying to save her kids.
You know, she has a lot of flaws and she makes a lot of mistakes and she shows a lot of emotions.
She is a true, strong female character.
She's a good mom. So
and a mom character.
Yeah. So I think that The Secret of Nim is really good for children of all ages, for sure.
Yeah. I think it's good for people of all ages.
Yeah. I think it just is one of those movies that it's nice
it's very thought-provoking in some of its scenes.
But it's also just entertaining. If you don't want to, think deeply, you don't have to.
No.
You can just watch the movie and enjoy it, or you can really think philosophically about it if you choose to.
It's not my personal favorite Don Bluth movie, but it's up there. My favorite's The Land Before Time.
Oh, absolutely.
I think The Land Before Time is his masterpiece.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you don't cry with Littlefoot, you're a monster. But I remember me and my siblings crying, and then my mom came in and saw and she started crying. But yeah, The Secret of Nim I think was a decent movie.
Okay.
So for sure.
So you didn't like it as much?
Oh no, I did definitely like it. I wouldn't put it as one of my favorite movies. I wouldn't. I'm not devastated we don't have it on. If there were any
flaws, just for the sake
DVD.
of challenging and making the conversation just more interesting, what would you say are some of the things that kept it from being one of your all-time favorites?
I still have an issue with the size ratio.
Oh, the size ratio.
Yeah, it just
So that didn't really help much?
See, the
It's like,
biggest
oh, I
thing
get it.
is
Doesn't make sense, but I
they're
get it.
humans
Uh-huh.
in the Secret of Nim. So there's something to compare size-wise.
Well, right, yeah.
Whereas, like, in Redwall, there are no humans. Humans do not exist in the books that I've read thus far. So it's like there's nothing to compare the size to.
Okay.
But it still is like, okay, they live in like a little tree hollow, or they live underground in like a little tunnel, but they still have like cups and plates and clothes. And it's just like, okay, where are you getting these things from? Like, how? And it just like, to me, it's still an odd dynamic. So I think for me as an adult, I might just have an issue in my head sorting out, like the realness of like animal characters, just being like, wait, so you're drinking milk and cereal. Did you milk the cow? Like, you're a mouse. Like, what kind of milk is that? So it's just me kind of being too adult in my head.
Okay.
And thinking too hard instead of just enjoying it. So I think it's a me problem for sure.
Because, like, for me personally, I love the main character of Mrs. Brisby.
Oh, yeah.
All the other characters are fine.
Yeah.
Like, they serve their purpose. We have a serviceable villain.
Yeah.
We have Justin, who is, like, the typical hero.
Yeah.
We have Nicodemus, who is, like, the wise character.
I think he's one of my favorites. Just
Nicodemus?
Yeah. I'm a sucker for the old man characters that are like oracles.
Yep.
I just always tend to really enjoy them. So, but you're right, Mrs. Brisby is definitely like
she's the best
top of the line
character.
hero for sure. Like, we need more
Whereas
characters
everyone else
like
is just
her.
kind of like, they're fine.
Yeah, I would agree for
Like,
sure.
I'm not gonna quote Justin on a day-to-day basis. Justin's actions aren't gonna move me
Right.
emotionally like the characters in Land Before Time, to where like you're influenced.
Yeah.
But it is just a very solid story.
It was nice to see in a children's film, because there are some not adult films, but like that took a weird turn.
Turn on the black light.
There are some more mature cinematography. The ice is falling off the side of the house, if you can hear it. You see the startled look in both our eyes, thinking another raccoon fell down the chimney.
Jesus.
Happens more than you think.
Yeah.
But what was nice to see is that, like you said, she's not like the born hero. She's not moved to be a hero or to be the protagonist. She's moved by fear. Like, there's a real emotion that is considered a negative emotion, propelling her forward to do what she's doing. So, and to me, that's way more realistic than like, I was called to be a hero. Like, I was born for this. This is my destiny. She's like, no, I'm fucking scared.
Yeah.
So like,
They're moving my family and
yeah.
she's sick.
So, and it's like, she's terrified, and that's what pushes her into development. So I think for me, I really enjoy that aspect. So if there was more of that, it would be a better film for me. For me, the big thing is like the villain. I don't think I necessarily cared much about this villain.
He's fine.
Yeah.
He has some cool lines.
I would say
there's a really cool sword fight at the end.
Yeah, that's one of the things though that kept me from putting it higher up in like my favorite.
He doesn't steal the movie. He does what he's supposed to do as a villain.
But kind of moving forward here, we started doing a movie bucket.
Yes, we did.
So we kind of went through all of our movies and DVDs that we have physical copies of, and basically was like, have you seen this? No. Have you seen this? No. Anything that one of us or both of us have not seen, we wrote on a little slip of paper and put it in our movie bucket.
Yep.
So we've been kind of chipping away at that bucket.
Yeah, I think that's going to be our 2022 goal, is to really turn that bucket into just like
a weekly
scraps
goal. Yeah, just trying to
by the end of the year.
Because I mean, there's a lot of movies in there. There's like at least 100 movies
and, like,
in that
streaming
bucket.
is hurting, not helping.
Yeah. But one of the movies that we pulled out of that bucket was actually a movie I saw in high school, really fell in love with it. So I bought a copy, and you'd never heard of it. And it's called Paris Je t'aime.
Yeah.
Which is Paris, I Love You. And basically, the entire movie is about love.
Yeah.
Different types of love, whether it's like partner love, love of husband and wife, love of your children, love of your
family,
country, your family. Supernatural love is in there.
Yes.
It's just, it's a very unique movie. and it all takes place in Paris.
I had two emotions that would constantly go back and forth while I was watching this. One was off like, oh, he's in this. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
You can kind of...
Hey, I know that face.
You can kind of pick out a celebrity, and they were probably in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, it is very heavy on popular names.
And the other was like, this is nice.
Yeah.
Like, nothing like, wow, this is thought-provoking, or like,
see,
this is
whereas,
boring.
like, it hits me...
It was that nice little, like, this is nice.
I think it hit me a different way because, like, I love in the sense that it doesn't always have to be romantic.
Right.
So I really appreciate a movie that showcases that. They have love of friendship, you know, being in love with your friends. And it's not weird, you know. Like, it's always been normal for, like, me and my friends to say we love each other after phone calls or when we're leaving, like, hey, I love you. Whereas I know for, like, a lot of friend groups don't do that. It's weird. It's weird to say I love you. And it's like, but I do love them, not in the sense of, like, hey, want to come home with me? But it's like, you know, I want the best for them, and I want them to be happy and healthy. And, like, that type of love is shown in the movie. And I really appreciate that.
And, like, this is a nitpick. Yeah. The only thing I was kind of like, really, was at the end where, like, everyone's story came together. Oh, you're, like, this character's dad who saw him, and it was at that party at that exact moment. I was just like,
it does kind of connect everything. I think I would have, I can agree with that. I think it would have been better just to leave all the separate stories be their own story.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see some of the characters interact, I guess.
Yeah.
But one of my, like, favorite parts...
Again, more of a nitpick. It was like, oh, there goes the whole movie.
Yeah, well, best part of the sandwich.
Best part of the sandwich. You ruined it.
But I think one of my favorite parts that is, to me, relatable is a woman that travels to Paris on her own. She's an American, and they do kind of, like, stereotype her a little bit. She's on the heavier side, not super attractive in the movie. She wears, like, the fanny pack, and but basically she goes to Paris to learn French, and she's writing back to, like, her group about what she learned in Paris. And it's all very much like, I remember being in middle school in my French class, like, not being able to do an accent at all and be like, je m'appelle Amanda. And it's like, really, really poor accent, poor articulation, poor grammar, but she's just trying her best. And it to me, I'm just like, aw, she loves Paris so much and she's trying so hard. And I just enjoyed that part of the movie. But Elijah Wood's part was also kind of hilarious. Yeah. He falls in love with a vampire.
Yeah. It was
weird.
It was oddly fitting.
It was so weird, but it was just right there.
It was like a train wreck. I couldn't turn away. I was like, what am I watching? Shh.
Just let it happen. But yeah, it's a fun little movie. I wouldn't push it on anyone, but I would say if you love or you like French movies, if you
just want something heartwarming with its heart in the right place.
It's a fun movie. It is rather long. It's not a short movie.
That's because there's so many stories.
Oh, yeah,
it's not like there's like 4 or 5. There's like close to 20.
Yeah, but it is like, what, a little over 2 hours?
I'd say so.
But it is very easy. Watch one, shut it off, come back to it later. It's not the Snyder Cut. I'm just going to shit all over that Snyder Cut.
You haven't seen it!
It's too long to see!
You haven't seen the original version that everyone hates and I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch
I don't want to see any of it. I want no part of it.
I don't want to see anything of that universe.
But...
Because I already have, and I'm not a big fan.
Leave it alone.
All right.
But the next one is from my childhood.
Okay.
And I remember watching this movie on VHS with my grandma, eating eggs and toast at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And it brings back a lot of warm memories from that time in my life.
Yeah.
So it's a very nostalgic movie. Rewatching it kind of, for me, puts me back in that time. Not necessarily that it's like a fantastic movie or anything like that, but it kind of puts me back into that moment in time.
It's still a good movie, though.
But it's Peewees Big Adventure.
And like when you told me Tim Burton, I'm like, oh really? And I watched it, I'm like,
yeah. Like, but it's a fun movie. It really is. Like, you have Pee-wee, who's an adult, and he has the most spectacular house that you could imagine. And basically his bike gets stolen. And he loves this bike. So he goes on this huge adventure to find and retrieve his stolen bike.
Exhibit Q!
Exhibit Q! But he, like, runs into a lot of super memorable characters like Large Marge, who is a big part of meme culture. But I just love this movie. So it's so ridiculous, but it's so hard not to love Pee-wee. Just because he's so absurd.
Yeah.
But it was funny because when we were watching it, you were like having a good time.
Yeah.
But you were more watching me watch it because I was just so into it. I was just loving every minute of it. Because again, it just throws me back into like that cozy childhood memory.
Like I've seen you enjoy things, but like this was one of the first times that I saw you like just
be nostalgic
immersed.
And like a little kid again. Yeah. You know.
You were in a very happy place.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
again, I was just like cozied up, eating my toast and eggs and just like watching Pee-wee. But I really love Peewees Big Adventure. I would say it's definitely one of like my favorite childhood memories. That was one that I watched a lot. Yeah. So I love like my favorite part is the road signs. When he's driving the car, like the road signs get progressively more difficult, and he ends up driving off a cliff. But I just think it's a fun movie. It's a lot of fun.
It has a ridiculous third act.
Oh my
Very
God.
Hollywood, where like he's going from set to set.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It reminded me of Blazing Saddles in that sense. To where it's
It
just
is
like,
like-
whoop, suddenly we're just going to the Hollywood stereotypes.
But it
was
funny.
so over the top.
You
I couldn't
can't
turn
help
away.
but have fun watching
I had
it.
fun
You
with
don't
it.
you don't have to love it or make it your favorite, but it is hard not to laugh and have fun watching the movie. So
I agree.
Which kind of brings us to one of the movies you introduced me to from our movie bucket, which is Maverick.
Yeah. Yeah, Maverick was a movie based off like a very old 50s show starring James Garner.
Yeah.
And like I didn't tell you that because of the twist at the end of Maverick. So spoilers, because Maverick is like a Western comedy.
Yeah.
Starring Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster, James Garner, and Alfred Molina is actually in this. Dr. Octopus, a young Dr. Octopus. And like it starts in the middle. So like it starts a little slow. And then once you actually understand like where the characters are and like what they're going for, then it like loops back and the plot kicks off. More jokes.
I do feel like if you like Westerns, because I do enjoy Westerns.
Okay.
It's something that my dad would always watch. There was always like a Western. If it wasn't like an adult cartoon like Family Guy or Futurama.
My dad was big on Westerns.
It was a Western. My dad thought he was a cowboy. I'm like, we live in the middle of a city. Like, put the cowboy hat down. But he did. He thought he was a cowboy. But he loved Westerns. And so, like, sometimes, I don't know if your dad was like this, but my dad was a stereotypical dad. When you touch the remote while he was sleeping, he'd, like, fall asleep on the couch. He'd grab the remote and he'd be like, I'm watching that. Like, oh. Okay.
More or less.
So, like, oftentimes, like, if we wanted to watch TV, we had to watch the Western. And some of them turned out to be a lot better than I was anticipating. Okay. So, I feel like if you enjoy Westerns, the first part of the movie doesn't feel as slow as you think it does.
Okay.
Because it is very, like, traditional Western, setting everything up.
I think the reason I felt it was slow was because I know it's a comedy.
Yeah,
and,
it wasn't like joke after joke at the beginning. It was very traditional Western.
Yep.
But I really liked the movie. I liked it a lot better than I thought I was gonna like it.
I'm glad.
I didn't, however, fall in love with Jodie Foster's character as I think that you were supposed to.
Oh, Annabelle?
Yeah. I feel like at the end you were supposed to really like her, but I was still just kind of like, ugh. But I don't really like Jodie Foster all that much. So it's, maybe one of those things where I'm just like, meh. I mean, she was okay. Like, I didn't hate her.
I really like James Garner.
Yeah.
I like him in another movie that we're going to cover in a little bit.
Yeah.
I like him in Maverick. I liked him in the original Maverick. I like him in Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Yeah. Like, I really like James Garner. He's one of my favorite actors.
I would recommend this movie. I think that the twist was great. It's not one that I would immediately come up with, but as soon as it comes out, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see it.
Like, there's not even a big, like, shock in the scene. Yeah. They just, like, say the line. It's just like, oh,
and you're like, I get
makes
it.
sense.
And then when she starts explaining it, I'm like, Like, it makes sense, but it's not one that I would immediately, like, ping, like, you know, not something that I called from the very beginning, because that's really frustrating in movies when you're like, he's the killer. Like,
our favorite bit was the Native Americans.
Oh my god, that was so funny.
Oh my god. Maybe I'll get some awful swampland and maybe your people finally leave us alone.
I love the Native Americans.
Pull yourself together! People are watching!
I love him so much. That
howling.
entire scene was so funny.
So, like, here's the rest of the movie. It's fine. It's pretty good.
And then,
here's
they
the
introduced
scenes
the
with
Native Americans. It was so funny.
Comedic gold.
Just because it was very tongue-in-cheek. So basically, like, Maverick goes and he's friends with these Indians and these Native American group.
Yep.
And they kind of save him from a situation.
Yeah.
Without knowing what they're doing.
My throat's killing me.
I know, he's talking to them in like their native language, so no one else can understand what they're saying. And he's pretending that they're going to take him and they're going to like cut his hands off and they're going to kill him. Meanwhile, he's just like talking to this guy like, hey, pretend to be vicious. And they're like just having a conversation and he goes away with them and he's like, what the hell was that all about? Like, he's just this normal guy. And you know, they're just like, you know, you guys need to stop taking our land. We're gonna, you know, buy a swamp so that you won't come for us. Like, so it was very tongue-in-cheek, but it was really funny.
Because Maverick's character is very much like a swindler. And, like, he's trying to get money for, like, this big poker game. And that's what the story revolves around. But, like, he robs Peter to pay Paul, as the saying goes. Yeah. With so many characters. And like, it's just dogpiles.
But it's so funny to watch. And with the Indians, they're trying to swindle one of, like, I think he's Russian, like a rich Russian guy.
Yes.
And so they convince this Russian guy that, like, oh, if you pay us a lot of money, you can hunt people. And this guy is all about it. He's like, yes, I want to hunt people. So they put Maverick in, like, this Indian costume. And he almost dies, and he only gets half the money anyway. It's such a funny scene. Like, that scene makes the movie for me. That definitely puts it.
He wouldn't let go of the rifle.
It was just so funny.
So yeah, I highly recommend, like, just for the twist and James Garner.
It's good.
Check it out.
Yeah, it's a good movie. One movie that wasn't the best movie, but was super popular when it came out. Everyone was like, oh my god, you have to watch it. iRobot.
Yeah.
It's Will Smith playing Will Smith.
Yep.
Sorry, Will.
My issue just goes in, like, the story and the believability that, like, Will Smith is the only character that would be against the progression of robots.
I feel like
there's
there's a whole group out there somewhere that's like anti-robot.
Yeah. But not only that, but like, the story is so rigged to make him seem like he's insane. Yeah. That logic goes out the window. Yeah. Buildings are destroyed. There's roads that are like closed off to where like this whole battle can happen on like the freeway. Yeah. And I'm just like, not a single other car is on this road.
Yeah. I just didn't care much for the story as well. I'm the same way. I just don't find it believable that one person would be anti-robot. Yeah. I also just didn't care much for, like, there's one sentient robot that's like, no, this is wrong. Like, really? I don't know. I feel like it could have been way better. And honestly, like, I love Will Smith, but I don't like him much as an actor because he plays the exact same character all the time. All right. So in every movie I see him in, he's always like the jaded bad cop that's like, you know, trying to get shit done, and like no one believes him or no one's on his side, and it's just like, okay, I've seen it. Like, can you play something else? Granted, I haven't seen all of Will Smith's movies, so I could definitely be wrong there, and that's just like the part of his
you're wrong. Otherwise,
acting ability.
He has a lot of movies.
But I do know, like, that's standard of
he has some of my favorite movies and some of my least favorite movies in existence.
Because, like, I love Men in Black, and I love him in Men in Black. Like,
I love Men in Black.
But I feel like...
hate After Earth.
I've never seen After Earth.
Oh, my God.
I mean, there's some that I just have no interest in.
You ever piss me off again, I'm going to be like...
Again? Put Primal on and lock me in a room. Like,
that was the first time we pissed each other off. It was just like... I thought this would be a good time, but we're
Yeah.
not here to talk about Primal. We're here to talk about iRobot. I didn't think the movie was as clever as I thought it was.
Yeah.
I didn't think the stakes were that interesting.
Yeah. I also
And I
just
felt like even though Will Smith, you said he was doing like his same old performance, I'd argue he was the only one given an actual performance.
Oh yeah, he was.
Everyone else was just very monotone, going through the motions.
Well, no, that's what I mean. Is like he does the character well. I just liked it better in Independence Day.
Yeah,
you know what I
me
mean?
too.
Like he played the exact same type of character.
Correct.
Where he's like the jaded bad cop that ends up saving the day, and
Yep.
it's just like I want more from that. Not that he doesn't do it well. Because you're absolutely right. Everyone else was kind of flat, and he was really giving it his all, but it's the same character. It doesn't change that it's the same character. Like, he's very typecast for that role. I would just love to see him do something else. You know what I mean?
Because, like, the one scene where I pulled out my phone and was just clocked out was, like, when he's investigating the house and they're destroying it, and it just felt like PlayStation.
Yeah.
It felt like a video game because, like, he'd move exactly to that side and everything in the building would be destroyed, but that little sliver he's on.
It
took me out of it.
Yeah. I would agree. I just think that it was a product of its time. It had its moment to shine, and now just kind of shove it to the back
I feel
of
like
the
it
shelf
definitely was just like a, hey, we're new at this CG technology.
Yeah.
This is the movie that I think of when it's just like too much CG.
Yeah.
A lot of people go to the prequels, and they have their problems, but you'd be surprised how many sets and miniatures they used on George Lucas's prequels.
Yeah.
This is the movie that I think of just like CG.
It was Will Smith with a green screen, like
Yep.
the entire movie. At least that's what it felt like.
And like other actors, like he's at least giving a performance. Again, everyone else is just like, I'm just here for the paycheck.
I don't know. I think it was his grandma. Was it his grandma? I don't think it was his mom.
I thought it was his actual grandmother, and they just kept the camera rolling.
I know, she was kind of fun. She's like, sit your ass down. Like, I like her. She's sassy.
I felt like she was just naturally sassy, and they just like pulled the camera in.
Yeah. She was fun though. But I would say that movie overall, you'll watch it or you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't much care for it.
Yeah, this was how I felt when you were watching Van Helsing.
Yeah.
And you were just like, that's more or less how I was during iRobot.
You
it's
can
just
take
like,
it or you
I
can
remember
leave
it being fun, but I didn't even have that rewatching.
Yeah. I would say, like, the first time you watch it, if you go in with low expectations, it's probably pretty fun, but, like, I don't know.
My expectations were too high.
Yeah, my expectations were too high.
I expected
for a
it
Will
to be
Smith
similar
movie,
to
for, like,
Independence Day
the budget.
and Men in Black.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was going to be more than
boring.
it was. Yeah. But another movie that I love to just rip to shreds.
Oh, here we go.
Was another movie from the movie bucket that
Yep.
you hadn't seen, and it's actually one of my favorite book series. I have a tattoo dedicated to it. It's something that I enjoy a lot, and it's The Mortal Instruments.
Yeah.
And I was stoked when they decided to make it a movie. Until I saw the cast, and then I was like, "Are you kidding? Why are they so old?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they had like 40-year-olds playing kids that are supposed to be like 16, and they look old, they behave old. It just completely destroyed the story for me. But this is a movie that I feel like if you are detached from the book series or you don't know what it's supposed to be, it's probably an okay movie.
Yeah.
Which is where you were at.
Because, like, I'm going to surprise you. I liked this more than iRobot.
Yeah.
Because, like, it was serviceable. I could see, like, teenagers kind of, like, eating it up.
Yeah.
They had a story. They had some good... Like, you got fucking Cersei Lannister in there as the mother. So, like, you have some good performances. You have some interesting characters. You have some interesting ideas. But it had a lot of very similar Hollywood, like, book-to-movie adaptation flaws to where it's just like, hey... Let's cram in all these storylines into one film.
They took like 4 books and they jammed it all into one hour and a half long movie. And it just, to me, none of the characters got to develop the way they were supposed to develop. They didn't quite fit for me. Like, I had a very specific image because the way they're described in the book is like the main character, Clary, is very small. She's a redhead, standard redhead, freckles, pale, like, very small, very like elfish.
Yeah.
And then the main male character is very angelic. He's tall, blonde curly hair.
Mm-hmm.
And like in the movie, the girl who plays Clary is taller than the boy who plays Jace. And I'm like, huh. And they picked like the skinniest guy to play Jace.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, he's supposed to be like a badass angel guy. Like, what?
The movie lacked depth, though.
Yeah.
So, like, this was like if you looked on Spark Notes and just been like, okay,
this,
that'll be the movie.
Hit the key points, but like nothing else. Like there was no in-depth about like the demon hunting and the Accords. They talk a lot about the Accords, but they never explain the Accords. So it's like there's supposed to be like this entire agreement between like the hunters, they're called shadow hunters, and what's called the underground. I'm stuttering because I'm so angry about it. But they're supposed to be like this.
This one bothered her more than me because
it's literally my favorite book series, and
I'm just like, well,
but like there's supposed to be this giant agreement. So like the werewolves, the vampires, the demons, the fae, like they're supposed to be kind of like controlled in a way of like, hey, you can't do these things and we'll leave you alone. And they talk a lot about how like, oh, this breaks the Accord, but they never explain that. They never explain like, hey, there was an agreement between everyone that these things aren't done. And then like they end with Simon turning into a vampire and then like don't explain anything that happens with that. That's a huge part of like moving forward because he's a daywalker. He can walk in the sunlight and all of the vampires want to kill him because they want to walk in the sunlight and they can't. But we don't get to see any of that. Like, fuck him, I guess. It just, they leave so much out and it's so disappointing. And the only thing that really brought that back to life to see like in the media is the TV show that was on Freeform.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the closest thing that would be like the book. The characters looked way better. They actually followed most of what happens like in the book series.
Show, you have
there's more time to flesh it out,
add
but
that depth that the movie was sorely
but
lacking.
it just makes me mad. Like, why then would you put 4 books into one movie and have it be flat and bad and not explain anything?
Because Harry Potter is making a lot of money
like,
and we want some of that pie. This happened with so many other series and so many other books. Look at Aragon. Aragon doesn't even get a fucking TV show to fix it. It's just dead in the water.
It just is one of those things, though, where it's so incredibly
it's called
frustrating.
Like the Inheritance Cycle. That's the name of the series.
See, but like the thing is with Harry Potter, they did 1 book, 1 movie. And then whenever they got to the end, they were making so much money, they're like, fuck it, we're going to take 1 book and make 3 movies. And it's like, because they did that with The Hobbit. I'm sorry, I've read The Hobbit. It does not warrant as many movies as it has. Like, it does not need that much film.
Point taken.
But they're making so much money from it that they're really, like, breaking it apart. I'm sorry, so you're going to take 4 books and put them into 1 movie and expect Harry Potter type money? Get out of here. Like, are you stupid? Like, alrighty. So mad. So mad.
So, out of all the movies we talked about, is this your least favorite?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. I would rather watch Velocipaster again.
Wow.
Yeah, I hate this movie that much.
Okay.
And again, if you watch the movie and you don't see where my vicar is coming from, read the books because A, they are a million times better, and you actually get a lot of the questions you may have had in the movie or things that you're like, well, that doesn't really make sense. Guess what? They do in the book.
All right.
Or the TV show. You can watch them in the TV show because that makes sense too. I'm sorry, I'm getting really upset.
Should we do a Beyond the Book?
It's actually on my list to do for Beyond the Book. That does
not surprise me.
However, I do have it as the 3-part Beyond the Book, the books, the movie, and the TV show.
Okay.
So I do have to do some refreshing with like the TV show and stuff because it's been a while. So, but to end on a happier note.
Yeah.
So
the last movie we'll be talking about is a very good comedy and a movie I feel is like very necessary now.
Yeah. It's way more relevant.
My Fellow Americans, and it is about a former Republican president and a former Democrat president.
Yeah.
Kind of like trying to solve this mystery of like who's trying to rig the new election.
And it's funny. It's funny but relevant.
It stars Jack Lemmon and James Garner. And like half the time, I didn't know who was Republican or Democrat.
Yeah. I love how it's all about politics, but they
Dan Aykroyd
kind
is
of
clearly a George Bush parody.
I know. It's all about politics, but they kind of blend the politics so well that you can't tell who's who. But you're rooting for both of them. You're just like, yes.
You're rooting for them to work together, which is what politics should be. This division, like, I don't have a side. I honestly don't, because the division is what, at the end of the day, is hurting this country, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we don't talk a lot about politics on this channel for a reason.
In this movie
it's an escape, but
like,
we do have our own opinions.
They're in the car with, like, that family. And, like, when they, like, tell them, hey, shove it. Yeah. We lost our home because of you. Yeah. And we lost our jobs because of you.
Yeah. I think, like, to me, that was the part of the movie
really humbled
where
those characters.
Yeah, where we got to watch them be like, wow, our decisions.
They were still silly.
Yeah, our decisions affect people.
Yeah.
And I think that was the moment where they really were like, wow, we need to figure this out. Mm-hmm. You know, it was less about them and more about we need to help this country. Mm-hmm. So I like the movie. I thought it was really funny.
It's clever. Yeah. It's well written. It doesn't take any side too seriously. It takes this nuance in the middle, which I agree with Lewis Black. We were better run by drunks because they would go to the bar and just talk as they made decisions about how to run the country.
I think that it's relevant now because we're in such a state of disarray when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
You have this huge group in the middle that like are terrified to say anything because
you will eventually get lumped in one of those two
into
camps.
one side, so it's just easier to be quiet.
Yeah.
And then you have these two extreme sides that don't have as many people as you think, but they're so loud.
Yeah.
And I think this movie really shows how the actions of our leaders really affect people that may be quiet.
Yeah.
They're not as loud as those extremists.
But it also showed that our leaders are also human.
Yeah, they make mistakes, and I think there's a couple of instances in the movie as well where it's like they have to make a tough decision, and it's one way hurts someone, one way hurts someone else, and it's like trying to decide what's the lesser of two evils. And it is funny, like they do it in a very comedic way, but it still is like, wow, I mean, you have a point there. Like if you make a law or a decision that can hurt me, but how many people does that help? So it's like not everyone is going to win in every single instance, and that's kind of like the theme of the movie is like, I want to win, and they're like, no, you can't, and then they're like, yes, I can, and they're like, well, if you win then they all lose, and it's like, well, that's not my problem. But it is still really funny. They do it in a very funny way.
Yeah. And like, again, politics aside, you can just watch it as two old people trying to one up the other.
It's so, I love when they go to like the museum.
Oh, that sandwich is like a wet dream. A wet dream?
Yeah. Like they're just these two old guys
and they hate each other.
They hate each other, but they're best friends.
We'll leave the train. They become best friends. Yeah. 1, 2, God, I always wanted to do that.
It's really funny. I would say if you like politics, watch this movie, man, because it mixes politics and humor, and I think that's something that we all need.
Yeah.
Especially right now.
Definitely.
Like we all just need to laugh a little bit at the political state of the world.
And laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
All right.
So
there we go.
So that's, again, we are recording before the film is done, so we'll find a way to kind of get to you the movies that we watched, because we did watch a lot of movies this past year. But also, in the comments down below, let us know some of your favorite movies, because along with our bucket of movies, we do want to know what you guys are watching and what your favorite movies are, because we want to watch them too, so we can talk about them with you.
Yeah.
So if you want us to watch your least favorite movie or your favorite movie, let us know in the comments so that we can start watching some movies.
All right, puppers. We'll see you guys next time.
Toodles.